Shocking, the 25-year-old secret is finally exposed. Holding the swaddling cloth embroidered with the family crest found in the rusty iron box, James stood frozen. His wife is the long-lost daughter of the Vu family, but the real twist lies in James's own identity. His father-in-law screamed in the rain, "You are not her biological brother. The truth about you is far more horrifying." Who is James? An adopted son, or the victim of a shocking baby swap? Right now, Chairman Hoan is on his deathbed and wants to give his final testament. What chilling truth will be revealed? Hit like and subscribe right now so you don't miss this moment of destiny. Time is a strange concept. Sometimes 3 days pass in the blink of an eye, but other times they drag on like an entire century. For James Diep, and especially Mrs. Lan, the 3 days Mr. Hoan was away on his business trip were the 3 longest days of their lives. The winter rain still hadn't stopped. The sky over Hanoi was gray and heavy, weighing down on the mood of everyone sitting in the Vu family villa living room. Mrs. Lan could no longer maintain the composure of an aristocratic lady. She paced back and forth in front of the window, occasionally pulling back the curtain to look at the main gate. The phone in her hand was gripped so tight it was burning hot. James and Diep sat on the sofa. James held his wife's hand tightly. Diep's hand was ice cold and sweating. She wore a modest long dress, her face lightly made up, but she couldn't hide her gaunt, anxious look. "Honey, do you think Dad will force us to divorce after he tells us the secret?" Diep whispered, her voice trembling. James turned, gently stroking his wife's hair, trying to smile to reassure her, though his own eyes were filled with uncertainty. "No, he won't. Whatever the secret is, I will never let go of your hand. Dad promised he would speak. I believe he went on this trip to find a solution, not to corner us." But James didn't know that there are truths that, when exposed, are more cruel than any separation. The clock struck 5:00 p.m. A car horn sounded outside the iron gate. Headlights swept across the window. "He's back!" Mrs. Lan exclaimed, her voice cracking. All 3 of them stood up instantly. The tension in the living room was tight as a violin string. The heavy ironwood door slowly opened. A cold wind rushed in, carrying dampness, and a chill radiating from the person who just stepped inside. Mr. Hoan. After just 3 days, he looked visibly aged. His hair was grayer, his eyes sunken with dark circles, and his posture had changed, no longer majestic and commanding, but heavy, as if he were carrying 1,000 tons of rock on his shoulders. In his hand, he still clutched that old black leather briefcase, the object that never left his side during this trip. "You're back!" Mrs. Lan rushed forward first, not to take her husband's coat as usual, but to demand an answer. "Speak, you promised. What is the secret of the last 25 years? Why have you treated James and Diep like that?" Mr. Hoan stood rooted in the middle of the living room. He looked at his wife, looked at his son, and finally, his gaze stopped on Diep. When he saw Diep standing tucked behind James, her large, round eyes looking at him in fear, Mr. Hoan suddenly shuddered. His pupils contracted. A flash of horror and pain crossed his aged face. He hurriedly turned away, avoiding her gaze. I'm very tired," Mr. Hoan said, his voice hoarse, dodging the issue. "Let me go up to my room and rest first. We can talk later," he He started to step toward the stairs, but James blocked his path. "Dad?" "James," called out, his voice firm. "You can't just go up to your room. You told Mom and me to wait 3 days. We waited. Now you have to speak. The secret involves Diep, doesn't it? Is it? Is Diep my sister?" James's question was like a bomb exploding in the middle of the living room. Mrs. Lon covered her mouth in shock. Diep stood frozen. It was the most terrible theory they had ever imagined. Mr. Hoan looked up sharply, staring at his son. What are you saying?" "I'm asking you, did you have an affair? Do you have an illegitimate child? And is that person Diep? Is that why you forbade us? Were you afraid of incest?" James screamed, his suppressed emotions finally bursting. Mr. Hoan looked at James, then looked over at Diep. Suddenly he laughed. A sour, tragic laugh that was bone-chilling. "Incest? Huh. If it were simply incest, I wouldn't be suffering like this." His cryptic sentence sent chills down everyone's spine. If it were simply incest, what did he mean? Is there something worse than incest? Then what is it? Mrs. Land grabbed his shirt, screaming in despair. Mr. Hoan brushed his wife's hand away. He hugged the briefcase to his chest, as if trying to shield his own erratically beating heart. "Lon, James, and you too, Diep." He looked at Diep, his eyes for the first time, holding a hint of tenderness, yet filled with sorrow. "I intended to tell you. I went to meet that person to confirm it, and I have the answer." He swallowed hard, his throat dry. "But I can't say it right now." "Why?" all three exclaimed in unison. "Because..." Mr. Hoan closed his eyes. "If I speak now, this family will be destroyed. Your mother will die of shock. You will lose all faith. And Diep," he trailed off, "she won't be able to handle the truth about her origin. You broke your promise again. You're a coward." Mrs. Land collapsed onto the chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Mr. Hoan watched his wife in pain, his heart feeling like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. But he gritted his teeth and endured it. He accepted being the coward, the oathbreaker, the villain. "Give me more time," Mr. Hoan said, his voice dropping to a pleading whisper. "Wait until everything settles down. Wait until I have arranged everything for Diep. Then I will speak. I swear before our ancestors, I will not take this secret to the grave. But not right now." With that, he squeezed past James and walked heavily up the stairs. His solitary, teetering shadow was cast against the cold wall. Dinner that night at the Vu residence was the bleakest in history. The table was full of delicacies, but no one touched a chopstick. Mrs. Lon skipped the meal, locking herself in her room. James and Diep sat opposite each other, silence enveloping them like an invisible wall. James looked at Diep, his mind a mess. His father's words, "She won't be able to handle the truth about her origin," kept haunting him. What was so terrible about Diep's origin? She came from the poor mountain village. Her father was the alcoholic, Mr. Hung. What was there to be unable to handle? Unless Mr. Hung wasn't her biological father. And if Mr. Hung wasn't her father, then who was? And why was James's father so deeply involved in this? "Don't worry too much." Diep spoke up, breaking the silence, her voice soft but resilient. I'm used to suffering, even if the truth is that I'm the child of a criminal or the child of an enemy. I can accept it all, just as long as you don't leave me. James reached across the table to hold his wife's hand. I told you, even if the sky falls, I'll hold it up for you. Tomorrow, I will investigate this myself. If Dad won't talk, I will find out on my own. Meanwhile, upstairs inside the locked study, Mr. Hoan didn't turn on the lights. He sat in the darkness, illuminated only by the faint glow of the streetlights outside. On the desk, the briefcase was open. He took out a yellowed, tattered medical file and a black and white photograph. In the photo was a young Mr. Hoan standing next to another man. The other man had a rugged face, but his eyes, those eyes, were identical to Diep's, and beside the photo was a brand new DNA test result he had just obtained on this trip. Mr. Hoan picked up the result, his hands trembling. The words, "No biological relationship" between his sample and James's sample hit his eyes, and the words 99.9% biological relationship between his sample and Diep. He covered his mouth to stifle a sob. The truth was more ironic and cruel than anyone had speculated. James, the son he raised, took pride in, and loved for 25 years, is not his biological son. And Diep, the poor girl he spurned, forbade, and looked down upon, is the lost flesh and blood of him and Mrs. Lan from all those years ago. 25 years ago, at that district hospital, on that stormy night, was there a mistake or a horrific conspiracy to swap the babies? Whose son is James? Why did he take Diep's place in luxury? And why did his biological daughter, the true heiress of the Vu family, have to live in poverty, abused by a foster father, Mr. Hung? Mr. Hoan looked down at the paper. This was exactly why he didn't dare speak. If he spoke out, Mrs. Lan would die of shock, knowing the child she pampered for 25 years was a stranger. James would lose everything: his identity, his inheritance rights, and his self-esteem. And the biggest tragedy, James and Diep. Are they siblings? No. Fortunately, the DNA results confirmed James is not his son. That means James and Diep share no bloodline. They can love each other, but how can he tell James, "You aren't my son. Your wife is my daughter. You have been usurping your wife's position for the last 25 years. How can he face the fact that he treated his biological daughter cruelly while raising the child of someone else, possibly the person who swapped them? It's too cruel. Oh God, why do you mock me like this?" Mr. Hoan rested his head on the desk, his choked sobs dissolving into the night. The next morning, Diep woke up early to water the plants in the garden, as was her habit. Even in the luxurious villa, she kept her habit of working to feel useful. As she passed Mr. Hoan's room, she saw the door ajar. Mr. Hoan's voice, speaking on the phone, drifted out harsh, but suppressed to a whisper. "Lawyer Tran, rewrite my will. Correct everything. I said transfer all shares to Diep's name. As for James, set up a separate trust fund for him. Don't ask why, just do it, and keep this absolutely secret." Diep froze. The watering ladle in her hand slipped and hit the ground. Clang. Mr. Hoan started hanging up the phone hurriedly. He rushed to the door. Seeing Diep standing there, her face drained of blood, Mr. Hoan was flustered. "Diep, did you hear anything?" Diep looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "Dad, why are you transferring all your assets to me? I don't need money. I just need to be with James. Is it because you plan to kick James out?" Mr. Hoan looked at his biological daughter, his heart twisting in pain. She was still so innocent, still only thinking of her husband, completely unaware that all of this rightfully belonged to her. He stepped closer, wanting to reach out. He wanted to reach out and pat her head, but he pulled his hand back. "No one is chasing James away. Don't worry. I just want to make it up to you. Make it up to me." Diep looked confused. "I haven't done anything. Why do you need to make it up to me?" Mr. Hoan looked deep into Diep's eyes. He saw the image of Mrs. Lan from her youth reflected in them. "You'll understand later." "Deep promise, Uncle." "No promise, Dad, one thing. Yes, no matter what happens in the future, no matter how James's status changes, promise me you will never abandon him. Love him, protect him, the way he has protected you. Can you do that?" Mr. Hoan's strange request left Diep even more bewildered. Why should she protect James? James was the tycoon, the pillar of strength, while she was just a country girl. But seeing the desperate look in his eyes, Diep nodded. "I promise. I love him more than life itself. Regardless of who he is, I will always be his wife." Mr. Hoan exhaled in relief, his eyes glistening. "Good. Very good. Now, I can rest easy." He turned and walked into his room, closing the door. Diep stood there in the drafty hallway. She could feel a massive storm about to make landfall. Mr. Hoan didn't speak the secret, but his actions changing the will, the strange request were more terrifying than words. James stepped out from the shadows and wrapped his arm around Diep's shoulders. He had overheard parts of the conversation. "What is Dad planning, honey?" Diep asked. James squeezed his wife's shoulder tight, staring thoughtfully at his father's closed door. "I don't know, but I feel like Dad is preparing for a departure or a shocking transfer of power. Diep, I'm not waiting for Dad to speak anymore. This afternoon, I'm going back to the mountain village to find Mr. Hung. I believe the key to everything lies with the man who raised you." Diep nodded. She wanted the truth, too. Outside, lightning began to slash across the sky. The storm of destiny had truly begun. Mr. Hoan has returned, but he brings with him a silence more terrifying than death. Why does he look at Diep with a gaze of horror mixed with pity? Why did he secretly call his lawyer to transfer all assets to Diep and push James to the sidelines? And what truth does that DNA test in the briefcase hold? Is James not his biological son? Is Diep the real heiress? Or was there a horrific baby swap tragedy years ago? James has decided to stop waiting. He is returning to the mountain village to find answers from Diep's father. Will this trip expose a crime from the past? And what will become of James and Diep's love when their identities are completely overturned? James drove the pickup truck speeding through the misty rain. He didn't use a driver. There are journeys a man must drive himself, facing the twists of fate alone. Just a few hours ago, He had eavesdropped on his father's call with the lawyer, transfer all assets to Diep, cut James out of the inheritance. That sentence echoed in James's head like a death sentence. He didn't care about the money. He didn't crave power. What caused him extreme pain and confusion was why. Why would a daughter-in-law from a poor background, whom his father once despised, suddenly become the sole heir? And why would he, the only son, the pride of the Vu family, become an outsider? James white-knuckled the steering wheel. He recalled his last visit to Diep's home in the mountain village. That day, he had sat waiting for Mr. Hung Diep's father for 4 hours. Ton Diep's brother said Dad was working in the far fields and hadn't returned. James had believed him, but thinking back now, he saw too many holes in the story. It had been pouring rain that day, too. Who works in the fields until dark during a storm? And Toan's eyes that day. Shifty, fearful, constantly glancing toward the back of the house. He wasn't away. James muttered to himself in the car. He was hiding from me. He knew I was coming. He was afraid to face me. Why would a father-in-law be afraid to meet his son-in-law? Unless there was a connection between them more terrifying than simply being in-laws. James slammed on the gas. The engine roared, tearing through the fog, rushing straight toward the mountain village, known as the poorest hamlet in the district, yet hiding the most expensive secrets. The mountain village appeared in the gloomy twilight. The muddy red clay road forced even the modern pickup truck to struggle as it crawled in. James parked at the top of the slope, deciding to walk so he wouldn't alert anyone inside. Mr. Hung's house looked the same. Gray palm leaf roof, earthen walls stained by time. After the wedding, James had sent money back to renovate the house, but strangely, there was no sign of any repairs. Where did the money go? James stepped softly into the yard. The door was ajar. Inside, an oil lamp flickered. "Toan," James called out loud. Clatter, a sound rang out from the kitchen, as if someone dropped something. Toan ran out in a hurry, his face pale. He wore a ragged t-shirt, his limbs covered in mud. When he saw James, Ton wasn't happy like usual. His eyes went wide with panic. "James, brother, why are you back at this hour? Where is Sister Diep?" James observed Ton's attitude. His brother-in-law was honest and simple. He didn't know how to lie. The fear was written clearly on his face. "Diep is at home. I have urgent business with Dad." "Is he home?" Toan stammered, his eyes darting around. Dad? My dad?" He swallowed hard, pointing toward the hill behind the house. "Dad went to a funeral in village already. He probably won't be back until late. Maybe you should go home and come back tomorrow." James furrowed his brow. "A funeral in the next village? Which village?" Ha village. Shami. Ha. Village is to the east. Why are you pointing toward the hill in the west? James retorted, his voice steely. Toan choked on his words, his face flushing red, sweating profusely despite the freezing cold. James stepped onto the porch and patted Toan on the shoulder. "Ton, you're an honest guy. Don't try to lie. I know Dad is here. Last time, I waited 4 hours, and he didn't come back either. This time, I'm waiting until tomorrow morning. If he doesn't come out, I'll tear this house apart to find him." With that, James pushed Ton aside and walked straight into the house. Tone stood rooted at the door, wanting to stop him, but not daring to. He mumbled, "Brother, don't. Dad is suffering a lot." Inside the 3-room house, it was pitch black. The smell of damp mold assaulted James's nose. He turned on his phone flashlight, scanning the room. The ancestral altar was cold, the incense bowl long extinguished, but on the bamboo cot in the middle of the room, there were signs of life. A bamboo pipe, Ju Kai, was half-smoked, the tobacco embers still glowing red. A teapot of green tea was still steaming. And most importantly, under the food cover on the tray, there were 2 bowls. One bowl was empty, the other still full of rice and still hot. James placed his hand on the bowl. The warmth transferred to his palm. The rice is still hot. Someone was sitting here just now, James told himself. If Mr. Hung had gone to a funeral in the afternoon, who was eating here with Toan, Mr. Hung had definitely just been here. When he heard James's car at the alley entrance, he must have fled in a hurry. "Dad!" James called out loudly in the empty house. "I know you're around here. It's James, your son-in-law. Why are you avoiding me?" Only the sound of a gecko calling from the roof answered him. James walked around to the back kitchen. The kitchen door was wide open, facing the banana garden. In the wet soil, James shone his light on fresh bare footprints imprinted in the mud, running hurriedly toward the dilapidated woodshed at the end of the garden. James followed the tracks. His heart pounded. He wasn't chasing a criminal. He was chasing his father-in-law. A feeling of bitterness and suspicion rose within him. What was Mr. Hung hiding that forced him to live like a fugitive in his own home? James stepped up to the woodshed. The rotten wooden door swayed in the wind. "Dad, I'm coming in." James pushed the door open. A shadow bolted out from the back door of the shed, sprinting straight up the acacia hill. "Stop, Dad!" James screamed, giving chase. The rain began to fall harder. The slope was slippery. James, in his expensive leather shoes, slipped and fell face first several times, his designer clothes smeared with mud. But he didn't care. He scrambled up, chasing the gaunt figure ahead. The man, Mr. Hung, was old and weak. After running a short distance, he was exhausted. He slipped and tumbled into a drainage ditch on the hillside. James lunged forward, grabbing his hand just before he slid further down. "Dad, why are you running?" James gasped, shouting over the rain. He pulled Mr. Hung onto the grassy bank. Mr. Hung lay on the ground, his whole body trembling violently, face covered in mud eyes, wide with fear, looking at James. He didn't look like a father. He looked like a sinner facing his final judgment. "Let me go. Let me go." Mr. Hung wheezed, trying to pull his hand back. "Don't touch me. I'm filthy." James didn't let go. He gripped those skinny, calloused hands tight. "You aren't filthy. You are Diep's father, my father-in-law. Why are you avoiding me last time I came? You hid in the house too, didn't you? What are you afraid of?" Mr. Hung burst into tears. Rainwater mixed with tears streamed down his weathered face. "I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to be your father-in-law. Go home. Tell Diep to forget this father." James was stunned. "Why? What are you saying?" Diep loves you very much." Mr. Hung shook his head frantically, burying his face in his hands, sobbing. "She shouldn't love me. She should hate me." "James, you don't understand. Go home. Stop digging." James looked at the broken man before him. His intuition told him this moment was the key. He knelt in the mud eye level with Mr. Hung, his voice low, solemn yet desperate. "I'm not going home. My father, Mr. Hoan, just made a will leaving all his assets to Diep. He pushed me aside. Do you know why?" Hearing the name Mr. Hoan, Mr. Hung jolted as if electrocuted. He stopped crying, looking up sharply at James, his pale lips trembling. He really did that. Yes. And he looks at Diep like he's seeing a ghost. "Dad, I beg you, tell me, what is the grudge between you and my father and Diep? Who is she really?" Mr. Hung sat dazed in the rain. Mr. Hoan's decision to leave all assets to Diep hit his mind like a sledgehammer. He knows. He knows everything, Mr. Hung mumbled. He is paying a debt. He is atoning. Atoning for what James pressed? Mr. Hung didn't answer immediately. He shakily stood up, holding onto James's shoulder. "All right, help me into the house. I will show you this." The two men, one old, one young, supported each other as they made their way back to the wooden house. Hoan was still waiting at the door. Seeing his father covered in mud, he burst into tears and ran out to help. "Dad, please don't run anymore. Brother James is a good man. He won't hurt us." Inside, Mr. Hung told Tone to get a towel to dry James off. Meanwhile, he walked over to the rickety bed, reached underneath, and pulled out an old biscuit tin, its paint almost entirely eaten away by rust. He placed the box on the table, his trembling hand brushing away the dust of time. James held his breath, watching. Just one look at this box was enough to tell that it had been hidden away for decades, 25 years ago. Mr. Hung began, his voice hoarse. "I was a drunkard, the scum of society. My wife didn't leave me. She died because she couldn't withstand my beatings." James and Tone remained silent. Tone lowered his head. Perhaps he vaguely knew of his father's dark past. That night, a stormy night, just like this one. Mr. Hung opened the lid. There was no gold or silver inside, only a yellowed infant, swaddling cloth embroidered with the letter V, intertwined with a stylized lotus flower and a silver necklace engraved with a date of birth. Mr. Hung pushed the box toward James. "Look at it. These are the things I found on Diep, the night I brought her home." James picked up the cloth. His hand shook violently. The letter V, the lotus flower. This was the Vu family crest. This symbol was only embroidered on items belonging to direct lineage members. James had a handkerchief exactly like this since he was a child, and the silver necklace, the date engraved on it, October 15th, Celsius XXX. James froze. That was his birthday. Diep and he were born on the same day, same month, same year. "Dad," James stammered. Where did this come from?" Mr. Hung closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. "I am not Diep's biological father. That night I sneaked into the district hospital to steal. In the panic, I picked up the wrong baby. Or perhaps I witnessed someone abandoning this child. Mr. Hung paused, afraid to confess he was a kidnapper. He chose to soften the story so James wouldn't be too disgusted. I saw the baby lying there all alone, so I took her. At first, I planned to raise her to sell, but seeing her cry, I couldn't do it. I named her Diep. James shot up the cloth, falling to the ground. So, who are Diep's real parents? Mr. Hung looked up, staring straight into James's soul. Look at the embroidery on the cloth. Look at the birth date. Don't you realize Diep is the daughter Mr. and Mrs. Hoan thought died at birth that night? She is actually Ly Tu Diep, the true heiress of the Vu family. The truth struck James like lightning. Diep is his parents' biological daughter. Then, who is James? If Diep is the biological child, why do his parents have James? Is James a twin brother? Or is James a replacement child? No, impossible. James stepped back, shaking his head frantically. If Diep is my sister, then we... He didn't dare say the word incest. If true, this marriage was a horrifying tragedy against all morality. But Mr. Hung waved his hands urgently. No, it's not incest. Calm down and listen to the rest. Mr. Hung tremblingly pulled another piece of paper from the bottom of the box. A tattered DNA test result he had secretly done 5 years ago. But before he could hand it to James, bam, the door was kicked open. 2 men in black suits and sunglasses rushed in. They were Mr. Hoan's personal bodyguards. "Young master, the chairman requests your return immediately." One bodyguard stepped forward, snatching the iron box from Mr. Hung's hands. "This is important evidence. The chairman ordered us to retrieve it." "No, give it back!" James lunged forward to grab it, but the bodyguards were faster. They restrained James, politely but firmly. "I apologize, young master. The chairman is in critical condition at the hospital. He wants to see you one last time. If you don't return immediately, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Dad is critical." James was stunned. The bodyguards ushered James to the car. He looked back at Mr. Hung. Mr. Hung screamed over the wind and rain. "James, go back. Go ask him. You are not blood related to Diep. The truth about you is far more horrifying than that." The car door slammed shut. The vehicle sped off into the night. James sat inside, his mind spinning. Diep is the biological daughter of his parents. He isn't her brother. So, who is he? Why was he in the Vu household on the very day Diep was lost? Is he the son of an enemy? Or a child swapped in a sinister plot? Oh my God, the truth has been half exposed, only to open up another abyss of mystery. Mr. Hung, the poor foster father, admitted Diep is the lost heiress of the Vu clan. The swaddling cloth is undeniable proof, but the biggest shock doesn't stop there. Mr. Hung screamed, "James and Diep are not siblings. Then who is James? Why has he lived as the son of the Vu family for 25 years? And the Thunderbolt news. Chairman Hoan is dying and wants to see James one last time. Did Mr. Hoan know his time was up? Hence the rush to transfer assets to Diep. Will James make it back to hear the final testament? Or will the secret of his identity be buried forever? a race against death, and truth is happening right now. Don't miss a second. Hit like to pray for Mr. Hoan, and subscribe immediately to catch the next tear-jerking episode, The Blood Will and the True Identity of James. Goodbye, and see you next time.